Broadcasting live, it's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. I hope all of you are having a great day and hey, you're ready for another episode of Computer America. So today on the program, in the second part of the show, we will be doing, of course, computer and technology news, and that is where we talk about everything new, interesting, and newsworthy involving technology, including celebrating the fact that, hey, IRC, it's like Internet Relay Chat, I believe. Obviously, it came a little bit after, I started chatting, but Computer America for a number of years ran a chat room based solely on IRC. So we feel, hey, celebrate its birthday, turns 30 today, and wow, what a cool technology. That including something about a fire department and Verizon, no good there, and so much more. So everyone, computer and technology news in the second part. But in the first part, as we usually do, we of course will be having a guest. And that guest will be none other than a company called Spaces. And this is going to be for all of you AR, VR aficionados, because this is going to be, one of those... We talked a lot about yesterday. Yesterday we had a company on talking a lot about AR and VR as well. And, we were talking about how the content that we just didn't have the content to really push the idea of VR. Well, I believe this guest is going to really show us just what the technology can do. And here to talk with us is Mr. Brad Herman. And hey, we'll get into that in just a moment. But one last thing, computeramerica.com, that is where you'll find everything at our home. And yeah, you'll find a link to our guest website, any videos that we show, any news articles we talk about, anything and everything will be in one place. Also, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech. And also be sure to check out the live video feed, which you can also find over at twitch.tv/computeramerica. Okay, so all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into our interview. And as I said before, Spaces, hey, tell us all about their, just what they've built over there. And this is going to be a really good show for, yes, we're still a radio show, but for everyone out there watching, we're going to be showing, some of the pictures and videos and things like that. I think it's something you really need to see to believe. So joining us is once again Mr. Brad Herman. He is the CTO and co-founder of Spaces. So Brad, welcome on to Computer America. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. And a big shout out to the birthday of Internet Relay Chat. As an old school nerd and old school user of IRC, it was one of the first chat rooms that helped me get my first jobs in the industry. So
very cool.
Pretty awesome day.
Yeah, no, very, very cool. And honestly, like I think the years that I still could have gotten into IRC, I was on like BattleNet, and I was using other forms, but no, IRC, great technology. And hey, speaking of innovative technology, VR, it's all the hey,
It's a thing.
it's a thing. I was about to say it's everywhere, and we all know that it's not quite everywhere just yet. But it's something that I think everyone has in their hands through a smartphone, or they've seen something. But like I said, the content and the available content needs to really perk up. And again, I think that's something that you can really kind of share with us. So before we get started with all that, tell us about Spaces and tell us about Brad Herman. How did give us some background on Spaces, and were you always in technology? How did you find yourself working with the company?
So Spaces at its foremost is an entertainment company. We're about giving people amazing experiences, letting them go anywhere and do anything. And we do that through location-based entertainment. We're a place you actually go and experience stuff. And we use the latest and greatest in technology to help give you those experiences. So right now we have Terminator Salvation Battle for the Future. This is a VR experience. We actually have you come into our locations, you suit up, you gear up, we put sensors on your hands, your feet, you put backpacks on, we put on wireless headsets, and then we actually send you into battle against Skynet. But not just alone, we actually send you in with your friends, and you're actually going to go really do this. We actually 3D scan your face. We then turn you into a Terminator, but with your face on it, and then you go and actually have this crazy social experience and have a lot of fun and hopefully save the world. For me, Space is a company that I co-founded with Shiraz Akmal 2.5 years ago after our work at DreamWorks. So we led VR there, building innovative location experiences for DreamWorks. And then for me personally, before that, the visual effects industry, working on movies like X-Men and Training Day and Pirates of the Caribbean and Transformers, using technology to make those cool images you see on the big screen. And now we take it and put it onto a screen that's on your face.
No, and of course I can see where a movie as kind of action packed and high pace as Terminator, I can see where it can translate very, very well. And before we move any further, I have to ask, and this may just be one of our past guests did something similar, but they had the franchise Aliens, and I'm kind of wondering if you've ever worked with them, or is this some kind of trend that we're going to see kind of moving into the future, where these big kind of recognizable action films are turned into VR experiences, because they worked again with Aliens, and this idea that you can push this VR experience. Why are so many kind of, I guess, movie franchises being adapted to VR? What makes something easily, or at least what makes something a good medium for VR?
So we know the guys at Fox and IP2 well. They did a wonderful job adapting Aliens, and we're really excited to see this trend in turning amazing IP into great VR experiences. Something for us that we love is that VR isn't just about like action movie experiences or one thing, that VR really actually allows you to create just about anything. It's really about creating a great experience for people. So using iconic IP is a great way to get people in the door. And then when they actually play, they see there's actually a lot more to it. There's narrative, there's story, there's action adventure. But we have people from ages 10 to 88 playing this game. And we see dramatically different experiences when we have a group of 13-year-olds come in and play. They play very much like this is Call of Duty. And then when we actually get all 4 of their moms in and the moms play, they play the game a completely different way. They're more looking at the puzzles and how do we solve this as a team collaboratively and get it done. And it turns out because we weight scores towards things like the puzzles, they actually get a higher score than their kids.
I bet that is something that they will definitely rub in their faces. But of course, that's very interesting. And I didn't mean to insinuate that it's strictly action movies, but obviously, you weren't adapting The Sound of Music. It's it's going to be Terminator and and these kinds of things. So
we actually do have a musical in development. to be 100% honest, we actually
really
do have a music. We do. So And I know you bring up Sound of Sound. And by the way, Sound of Music's a great one. That's not the one we've got. We actually have an amazing Indian IP that's a Bollywood film. And the gameplay and the story and everything is actually expressed through dance. And your ability to actually like fully embody and do these dance moves is how you progress through it.
I like and really I found that very very interesting because obviously this what you're creating here with Terminator Salvation and what you are doing with VR in general, I feel like it's the very low hanging fruit is put a VR headset on someone, hand them some kind of something to hold in their hand to work as kind of like a laser gun or a regular gun, whatever, and just have them go through kind of a guided rail system and shoot things. But that's a very obvious take on it. And I guess there's a lot of different ways that, creating a whole new reality around someone, there's a lot of different ways that you can explore that technology. So I'm glad to hear that it's not just shoot 'em ups. Again, nothing wrong with that. Again, it's very easily adapted, but I'm glad that you're exploring as well.
We're fans of a lot of genres of games and of films and of theme park rides. And really, our company is made up about 1/3 of employees from each of those disciplines. And we try to use the best in learnings from each of those things to help us create great experiences. So, we've got an experience that we're building in China right now that is a Chinese romantic epic. Like it is a romantic drama. And it is, being built with our theme park partner over there, who's one of they're the third largest theme park operator in all of China. And, their guests have very specific expectations for what they're looking for. They're not looking for guns. They're not looking for shooting. This is a beautiful romantic story being told through this medium that you interact with this beautiful world by exploring it.
That is very, very interesting. And of course, let's go ahead and kind of shift our focus back to, of course, your new VR experience here that you with Terminator, but a romantic love story. I would have never seen it. So, wow, you just blew my mind. But let's go ahead and talk about Terminator as well. Because that's what we have up on the screen. And I think this is going to be, very, very exciting. So talk about this. You said, obviously put you put the players' faces on the AI and stuff like that. I mean, just tell us in general. Let's say someone new walks up to the booth and they say, "Okay, what now?" Walk us through the experience.
Absolutely. So, very much like a theme park attraction, you come in, we greet you, you come into the queue, we will then scan your face and create your account and get you all set up on our system, and then you go to your pre-show briefing. So in the pre-show, you get your mission briefing. You learn what you're going to have to go do on this mission today with your squad. We then bring you over into the stage where we transform the world, all the physical props and haptics and everything into this VR experience. You then go through the journey. You hopefully succeed. You can succeed better than others. It depends on how well you do. There's lots of things to discover and figure out. And then you've hopefully defeated Skynet, and you find out at the end. We then bring you back, and then you are shown the scoreboard. We show you how did you do with your squad mates. Like, did you accomplish the goals? Who actually got the most points? And then from there, you come out of VR, and then you actually can see the total leaderboards. So this is the facility leaderboard for today, the facility leaderboard for all time. And we've already had numerous guests come back and play again because they saw their name get moved down on that big arcade scoreboard just a little bit, and they weren't okay with that.
Trust me, I've been to arcades a lot, and I have one particular game that I completely dominated, and I took it as a slight that someone did it slightly better than me. So I can completely see that. So in one aspect that I'm finding really interesting, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on. Why did you feel the need to take someone's photo and place it on? And again, this isn't other people's AI as far as, or other characters within the game as far as I know. But let's say you go in with a group of 4 and you scan 4 faces, they're going to be able to look around and immediately identify who is whose avatar based on obviously the photo that you've taken and put into the game. Why did you feel the need to do that?
So you hit the nail on the head. It's really about being able to tell who everybody is and have that truly social experience as well as the video at the end. So key for us is, we've played lots and lots of games. We've played lots and lots of VR games. And even when we do some other LBE ones, it's like, oh, you're the green player and I'm the blue player. Or maybe they put our name as like a giant piece of floating text over our head that doesn't really fit with the world. But it's tough to remember. Like, you get 5 minutes in and you're like, who is green? Who is that? Who are you? And you spend time like, oh, I'm Brad. I'm like, oh, hey, Brad. Like, it turns out that when you scan someone's face and you put it on the character, you look over and like, oh, it's Brad. It's Ben. Yeah. It becomes very, very easy to know who everybody is, and it really adds to the social aspect. It doesn't take very long in the experience for you to kind of just forget and not even think about it. It's like, oh, you recognize everybody and you interact with them in a whole different way when you implicitly know who that is. And then one of the things that we do that we love is that, we live in a very social media-based world today.
Right.
It's not just about the experiences you have, it's about the experiences you share and how you share those experiences. So everyone that plays gets a free 15-second video that's like a cut-down version of parts of the experience that shows them and their friends in VR with their faces having this adventure. And then we have an additional 2-minute video that is a like beautifully edited version of your experience, along with you talking and going through key moments of it so you can relive it. And, stuff that's perfect for putting up on longer formats like on Facebook and on YouTube.
Yeah, and of course the medium that you're doing that in, because I think we've all been to an amusement park at some point, and if you're lucky, more traditional like roller coasters and the like, they will have one picture at the very end or at a drop, or other rides will have a couple pictures throughout, but you're able to obviously do much more than that.
Absolutely. And what we love is when you get out of the experience, as you're exiting, you get a chance to watch the video with your friends. You get to immediately watch the replay. And if you've ever played like online video games, you get the play of the day. You get these like great moments at the end of a match where like the replay system shows you like the cool things that happened, whether it's in Mario Kart or Overwatch. We wanted to have that kind of sense of fun and excitement on the way out. And that's where this really comes in. And it's hilarious to see people react to what they were doing in the experience, to what they said in the experience, and we've really seen everything from a couple ballroom dancing as Terminators to we had a core group of like hardcore VR gamers looking at one of the puzzle elements, discussing with each other, trying to figure out how they pick it up. Because they're so used to having a controller and clicking on things, they're just standing at the object, all staring at it like, I don't know what we do. And then finally, our game master just had to let them know, you just pick it up. And one of them reached out and picked it up and screamed because they actually picked up an object.
And that's actually a very good point, because not a lot of people have dove in headfirst into VR and made the investment, because traditionally the only way to get a VR experience was to fork over $2,000 for a computer and then another $1,000 for the headset and sit in gear, and otherwise obviously not a lot of people are going to do that. I'm assuming a lot of your customers are first-time VR users. How well do they adapt to to the thing? Obviously, you said that there's some kind of orientation that they get themselves familiar with the controls. But how quickly do people pick it up?
They pick it up incredibly quickly. It's funny. First-time VR users are actually much more at home and easygoing in the experience than people who have like hardcore VR rigs at home. Because people who have hardcore VR rigs at home have learned all these instructions and all these things like, don't walk around too much, don't turn around, don't do this, don't go run over there because you'll, trip on your coffee table.
Right.
Here, people who've never really had to worry about those rules or learning those things just like go in and go do it. And it's like, oh, I need to go over to that panel over there and press a button. So they just literally walk over and press the button. Someone who's used to like playing in their game is like, at home is like looking for a joystick they can use to move themselves over there.
Makes perfect sense. And this is also a good point to identify the difference between VR and, I believe you call yourself location-based VR.
Yes.
Kind of describe, first of all, where are you? And second of all, why the distinction?
So we are at the amazing Irvine Spectrum Center in Irvine, California. It is one of the premier destination malls in the U.S. We're lucky to be here. It's an amazing location with amazing people, and we're open and selling tickets right now. For us, the differences between location-based entertainment and at-home VR are actually pretty easy. We deliver an experience that you could never have at home. That the types of VR hardware, the types of technology of an equipment we are using, nobody has these things in their house. And even if you were to go to there's like this one crazy guy who has a whole bunch of stuff. He might have one set of things. He certainly doesn't have four.
Right.
And he certainly doesn't have a giant stage with haptics and props and things that move. You know, that's where we deliver an experience. Like, for instance, the haptic gun that we use costs as much as like a hardcore PC gaming rig. Like, we don't expect, and it's built for location-based entertainment. We don't expect people to have those at home. They're not marketed at home, but they're a heck of a lot of fun to use.
So, and you can start to see where this can easily be compared to, like you said, amusement parks and the like. How do you see the future of what you're doing evolving? Is this going to be like theme parks are going to have their own version of location-based VR, or is location-based VR going to stick to kind of malls and little, like, maybe like when the escape room fad dies down, location-based VR is going to take over all the escape rooms, and that's going to be that. Like, what is the future of location-based VR?
Well, I think we're going to see an evolution over time as we see the convergence of AR and VR into our daily lives. As those things become more ubiquitous, we will see these, location centers be able to leverage potentially even personal devices people have, but augment them with additional pieces of technology that they don't have. So that's more like the 5-year, kind of roadmap of where I think things are going overall. Mm-hmm. But realistically, I think we're already seeing several theme parks are adding VR attractions. In China, there's entire VR parks that are open, and we're building one ourselves right now. I think what you'll see is just like, currently parks and entertainment centers have diverse mixes of attractions, is that you will see just this as an additional thing added to that mix. Regular escape rooms are a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of them.
Right.
And they've been around, for a decade now, and they're just increasing in popularity. But what's cool is, VR escape rooms. Is when you add those elements to things where you can use that same space, it's that same number of people, but do really fantastical storytelling and really fantastical puzzles that would be tough to do in physical props. That would be tough to do at a regular scale. So that's kind of where we see these things being additive, not I don't know a good word, but not replacing.
Right. Right, and of course, obviously, earlier we mentioned kind of home base and how home users, I guess it's very telling that you said that people who have VR rigs at home, and trust me, they are the few, they are the proud, are still more than willing to come in and experience your VR because, hey, they don't carry it around with them in their pocket. So talk about in-home VR and location-based VR. Do you see a future where maybe one replaces the other, or maybe eventually they get combined where you have a singular game that you can play at home or at a location base? How do you see the two mixing?
I see them mixing over the long term in terms of the convergence of devices and the convergence of media and entertainment brands. So I think you can look at like amazing things like Pokemon Go is a good example.
Right.
Pokemon is a phenomenal like traditional mobile game on Nintendo DS and on Game Boy, but you have Pokemon Go, which is the mobile AR like extended into the world version. I think you'll see more and more of these content franchises that will go from, interconnected versions of experiences that are playable at home, that are playable on mobile devices, but are also playable in locations with big, large versions of them that you could never do at home, that are like the super premium versions. So I absolutely think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of convergence, and I'm excited to help make that happen.
Absolutely, and I can see that you're definitely doing that. And by the way, I was just looking at some of the promo, videos and pictures you have here, and I'm looking at the gear. The gear, obviously, the headset's pretty standard. Looks like you have some stuff that's a little bit more rugged, so it doesn't get broken. But you have people wear vests and backpacks. Just real quick, talk about what kind of gear people will actually be handling when they experience this whole thing.
So we actually put a pretty powerful HP backpack on you with a NVIDIA literally the most powerful NVIDIA cards that you can get today in a backpack. We do use Oculus as well as other technologies to deliver the experience. And then the trackers that you put on your hands and feet, we actually designed ourselves. So we actually designed and manufactured those, and those are custom. And then we use a variety of basically custom 3D props and things that we sculpt and make and haptics to deliver on the final experience. But from like a computer and technology standpoint, we're very happy to have amazing partners that help us deliver this great content.
Very, very nice. And hey, sensors, they're certainly becoming affordable, but not even just affordable, but very, very precise. So I know that one big problem that VR has had in the past was, you expect to do something very finite or something very detailed, and if the sensors just aren't that capable of picking up those little movements, it can be very frustrating, which kind of leads me into my question. You said that. Well, no. VR's been the big VR news has been around since like 2014, Oculus Rift, and Facebook purchasing them for $3 billion. And then I'd say 2015, everyone was like, VR, it's coming to your home. It's going to be this big deal. We're in 2018, obviously, and VR, while not dead, is not currently. I'm not currently petting my virtual dog as I throw my dog out the door. It's still a technology that is being adapted and in greater numbers, no doubt about it, but it's just now becoming something that people are really considering. Why is that?
Quite a few reasons, actually. One is if you look at the general technology curves of how long it takes for adoption of devices, anything from the VCR and the Walkman to television. These things have a fairly standard pattern, and VR is actually moving along on that pattern pretty well. Like, what we're seeing now that's kind of amazing is in terms of at-home VR, certainly for different classes of experience, the cost of devices coming down extraordinarily. Oculus makes the Go, which is a great headset. It is a mobile-based all-in-one headset, doesn't require your phone, and you can buy it at Best Buy, and it's $200. The quality in the screen of that is 4 or 5 times the resolution of the original Oculus headset. And that headset required a beefy computer and required a lot of work and dev kit stuff. This is literally a headset that my parents walked into Best Buy and bought, and were able to immediately start watching Netflix in VR and CNN in VR. They were able to virtually be at baseball games, and they're able to watch MLB games in 360 stereo like they're sitting there in the stands. So what we're seeing is as those prices fall, and as there is great content and experiences that are worth having, adoption curves will go up. That said, there is always going to be a premium side of the market. There's going to be people that want to do the super high-end games and super high-end experiences, or even beyond that, ones that, like us, that require a physical location and physical things to actually happen. So we're very, happy about at-home VR starting to take off, and we certainly have, we think it's going to continue to go well, but we also think that it dovetails nicely into us being able to give people amazing experiences here, and then people being sold on VR. I was like, oh, wow, I do like VR. This is going to be a thing. And it didn't cost them that much. They come here, buy a ticket, and have fun. They're like, okay, I've seen, where the future is going. And, maybe they even go out and buy a headset.
There you go. No, and that is something that every VR person, and myself included, I was lucky enough to try out the Vive back, a couple years ago. And, trust me, I completely understand. It's one of those things that if you've never tried VR and you say, hey, you're going to love this, they're going to go, it's probably not for me. It's kind of goofy. It's whatever. But it's something that you really can't make a good decision on until you've at least put the headset on and tried it. It's something that you really need to try. But like I said, it's just not something that's been very easily accessible, up until this point. So I'm glad that exhibits like yours are certainly up and going. And speaking of Terminator Salvation, obviously, you guys are still going. You guys are, doing well. And I guess, talking about what is currently out is great, but also talking about what you've learned and what you're going to take into the future. what do you see, what really, really worked for your current VR experience that you're hoping to carry over or improve in the next?
So I would say the sense of wonderment and joy. That you can't overlook the fact that, like, especially for people for their first time in, there is a sense of amazement at just the smallest things in VR. And not forgetting the fact that, like, sometimes you want to just, like, overload and, like, oh, then you're going to go over here and do this and do this and do that. You have to add those still moments where they have a chance to appreciate just, like, this world they're in, this new body they're in, the character they've become. And we find it's really important to make sure that we give them those moments.
Right. Yeah, and I can completely understand that because, if what you said so far turns out to be true, they're going to, those cinematic experiences, they're going to be able to replay those over and over again, by taking them home, saving a video of it, and they're going to be able to, kind of remember that. So I'm really, really glad that this has definitely worked out for you. We have like 30 seconds left, so I'll leave it to you. If people want to find out more information and how much is a ticket, if they make it there in person, how much is it to actually experience this?
So you can go to spaces.com. You can find out more about the experience. You can book your tickets online. It's a $30 ticket for our Terminator attraction, and we have more attractions coming online here in Irvine soon.
All right.
And thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. And we'll be sure to, and we'll be sure to put links to everything in the show notes. Everyone, once again, Spaces, and have a good day. Everyone, we'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And yeah, if you just missed our guest, we talked to a company called Spaces, Mr. Brad Herman. And it was, of course, a lot of fun to talk about, location-based VR and their new experience, Terminator Salvation. There we go. That's the one. And yeah, hey, if you want to go check them out at the Irvine Spectrum Center, if you're out in California, then you can go check it out right now, and it's available. So, okay. All that being said, let's go ahead and jump into computer and technology news, because the past couple of, I'd say like a week, we haven't, or even 2 weeks, we haven't really been able to get into computer and technology news. So this is going to give us a lot of time to get into these stories. So here we go, computer and technology news. Let's get started. All right. So, today, let's go ahead and get started with. We have a number of stories that we really should get to. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. So, this is causing, and sorry to use the pun, kind of a PR fire as opposed to a regular fire. So, you may have heard about this one. There's been a couple back and forths, and so far, this one isn't turning out too well for Verizon. So you may have run into this yourself if you are a Verizon customer. What happens when you use too much data? Well, they throttle you. And Verizon, with their throttling of unlimited data, is nothing new. It's something that they are well documented doing, in that they will sell you unlimited plans, and then as soon as you reach a limit within that unlimited, they won't cut you off completely. They won't make you go cold turkey off your data, but instead of getting, 15, 20, 50 megabytes per second so that you can, adequately stream your movie or browse the internet or, play that app or download those games, instead of cutting you off cold turkey, your download is going to go from 50 to maybe, 52 kilobytes. Like, it will be throttled to the point of uselessness. But you'll still have data, just a very minute amount of it. Well, that practice, again, it happens. We're not talking about, whether or not they do it, but now what happened here is the fact that they did it, and then they did it to the wrong customer. So this is I believe it's called, so it's a fire department. And we'll get the exact fire department out in California. If you have been living under a rock, hopefully it's not in California, because that place is on fire. There are fires all throughout the West, and it's a horrible situation. Really, really unfortunate when people lose their homes and lives, and it's just not something you really want to happen. And then at the same time, you don't want it to happen when a company plays, wink, wink, nudge, nudge at you. And in times of emergency, fire departments get a lot more phone calls than they normally would. Something that may work for, kind of steady times does not always work for times when, hey, everything is on fire. So that's why we have now this story about a fire department whose data was throttled by Verizon while it was fighting California's largest ever wildfire, has rejected Verizon's claims that the throttling was just a customer service error and had nothing to do with net neutrality. Which, we talked about net neutrality. We have a couple of shows dedicated entirely to net neutrality if you feel like going back. But essentially why they're saying this is that the idea that you can throttle, that carriers can decide which data goes through, even though there's no kind of actual throttling, it's all artificial, and that they can then charge more for you because you're using more of it. That was one of the key tenets of net neutrality. And yeah, they said that the throttling has everything to do with net neutrality. That is what a Santa Clara County official said. So Verizon yesterday acknowledged that it shouldn't have continued throttling Santa Clara County Fire Department unlimited data service while the department was battling the Mendocino complex fire. So Verizon said that the department had chosen an unlimited plan that gets throttled to speeds of, here we go, I said 52, I apologize, they would never do something so atrocious. It's 200 kilobits per second. So not 52, 200, my bad. Or 600 kilobits per second after using 25 gigs a month, but that Verizon failed to follow its policy of removing data speeds when contacted in emergency situations. And this was a customer support mistake, they said. A customer support mistake. Well, you can see where things really went off the rails when emergency services had to essentially stop taking information because they just couldn't receive information because the data speeds were too slow. You can start to see some of the loopholes in our current infrastructure. So the Santa Clara County disputed Verizon's characterization of the problem in a press release last night, saying that Verizon throttling has everything to do with net neutrality. It shows that the ISPs will act in their own economic interest, even at the expense of public safety. And yeah, and the quote continues saying that is exactly what the current administration repeal of net neutrality allows and encourages. So yeah, that being said, they are among 24 local or state government agencies that sued the FCC in a bid to overturn the repeal of net neutrality. And the article goes on for a bit talking about the connection between the two, but because we didn't touch on it yesterday, and we really, really should, they said that, and by the way, another key part here was that they were more than willing to lift the throttling of the fire department if they were upgrade from a $38 plan to a $100 plan, and then they would have had to pay 20 gigabytes per second. They would have had to pay for 20 gigs, and then after 20 gigs, they would have had to pay 8 gigs per gigabyte after. So essentially, they did to the fire department what they did to every consumer out there. They said, we know that you're currently on an unlimited plan, but it's not as unlimited as our currently limited tier plans for much, much more money. And I know that's you think an organization as large as a fire station, you don't think that, maybe $60 would be that big of a deal. But think of a situation that we currently have where $60 and then a gig after every single time, and they're sending, receiving phone calls and data and pictures and video and all kinds of information, that could skyrocket the amount that these places have to actually pay, especially in times of emergency, when you really don't have time to sit down, go into your account, and add credit onto your Verizon account when you're trying to save people's, homes and lives. So all of that has been covered, all of that has been said, and I just really wanted to highlight it here that, it's an unfortunate situation, and for them saying it was a customer support mistake, you're darn tootin' it was, and this should never happen, especially in circumstances like this, but it should never happen to anyone, regardless if they're a fire department or a private individual. If you sell someone an unlimited contract and then you throttle them to 200 kilobits per second, how is that even fair? So, okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go into some of these other stories. And way at the beginning of the program, if you recall, we had a birthday today. Not mine, not Craig's, not anyone else here at the office, but no, instead, today's birthday belongs to the one, the only, the internet, the internet relay chat, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, the internet relay chat. Yes, see, I was wondering about that. The internet relay chat, which I know is still bustling. I know that a number of our listeners still are on it. We have avid users. Computer America has deviated away from IRC for a while now, but that no less, we don't think anything less of what IRC has done for the world. So with that being said, IRC turns 30 years old today, and it was developed at the University of Ulu, OULU. And they said that it was born in the Department of Information Processing Science in the University of Ulu 30 years ago. And they said that the developer developed the internet chat system back in 1988 in addition to a summer job. And today, people are, of course, still using IRC. Computer science students, a certain computer science student uses IRC every single day. Mostly he chats about everyday topics and occurrences like lunch dates and news of the day, saying that there's a tremendous amount of channels in IRC and it's easy to create more. For example, events and hobbies can have their own channels. And yeah, that's one thing that led to the diversity that the IRC has shown was that it wasn't simply curated to a certain number of chat rooms like AIM or something else. No, anyone can kind of create their own space, host their own little server, and have hundreds or thousands of people join it, watch it, join the conversation. And it was super versatile. It was easy. And, it's really held itself through the ages. So in a world where technology, you think about what technology is still in use today, 30 years later, there's very few that actually stood the test of time, because technology is not supposed to stand the test of time. Things are supposed to get better, faster, smaller, more convenient, but IRC continues to plug ahead. So there you go. Yeah, IRC, happy birthday. And here's the 30 more. I don't see it going away anytime soon. So, okay. So there's that one. Let's, just a quick happy birthday shout out. Let's talk about, okay. How about some justice served? I like this one. So, the darknet. We've talked about it before. What is the darknet? Simply websites that are not trolled by Google or any other search engine. Websites that don't allow, essentially search engines or ISPs or not ISPs or domain services to direct traffic to them. They're essentially IP addresses that if you know how to get into them through either the Tor network or the Onion network, or Tor browser, Onion network, then you are able to get onto these websites. And they're not all bad. Some of them are, of course, just people's personal websites. They, just websites that they just don't want people to have access to. But in other cases, the darknet, because it's a tool, it's a piece of technology, and just like anything else that can cause damage, a brick is a brick, but if you whack someone over the side of the head with it, a brick suddenly becomes a very dangerous object. Same thing with the dark web and the darknet. And one thing that people have found a home in doing on the dark web is unfortunately selling drugs. It's not something obviously that we advocate, and although we do have to point out that it does happen. It's unfortunate and we definitely don't like it, but we do like it when these matters get taken care of. So here we have it. This is a rare win from the Department of Justice. So, and I'm saying that because it's really hard to track down what's going on the darknet and actually pin down these providers, because whoever created the server could be anywhere, and they could, there's a lot of ways to hide their footprints. Essentially, it's not easy to do what they just did. So the couple behind a prolific darknet fentanyl sales was busted by the DOJ. And they called it Operation Darkness Falls, and it resulted in arrests, charges, and guilty pleas of the dealer. So they said that they announced on Wednesday that in recent months, they have arrested, charged, and of course, received guilty pleas from suspects. Here we go. Suspects in numerous new drug cases stemming from dark web sites. And they said that the most prominent case were two individuals who, a possibly married couple from San Antonio, Texas, that jointly operated under the name MH4 Life. And according to federal prosecutors, the two suspects were the most prolific darknet fentanyl vendor in the United States and the fourth most prolific in the world. That's how crazy this is. Just a random couple in California. Not California, in Texas. Just a random couple in Texas are the fourth largest fentanyl distributor in the world. That's crazy to me. So, of course, they said that last year, the fentanyl can be 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, and it is often mixed with other forms of drugs. And they said that it will, of course, be legally prescribed for pain relief and can be highly addictive. So you don't want this just, flowing freely into the market, it can and has caused a lot of problems. So prosecutors say that the Roberts duo, who are of course the two charged here, had multiple accounts across several sites, including Dream Market, Silk Road, Alpha Bay, Darknet, Heroes League, Nucleus, and more. And over a year has passed since Alpha Bay, one of the largest online drug websites, was seized and shuttered. So under the Department of Justice, they have gone hard on the drug dealers of the dark web, and of course they have indicted 2 Chinese nationals in October 2017. And there you have it. That's another reason why it's not easy to do, is because let's say that they have identified two Chinese individuals. The odds that they're actually going to be able to get the Chinese government to send over their citizens to be prosecuted in the United States for something that they did online, the chances are slim to none that they're actually going to be able to do this. So, yeah, not easy. So you got to take your wins where you can, and this is awesome. So they said that these traffickers allegedly manufactured in China more than 250 types of synthetic drugs, including synthetic opioids and deadly fentanyl, that they distributed in the United States and around the world. Yep. So using an elaborate system of shell companies, they allegedly shipped synthetic opioids to locations in more than 25 countries and 37 U.S. states, including Ohio. The man who is charged in serving the American reshipper has already been arrested. He was caught while trying to flee the country and has pled guilty. So, and that's one of the scariest parts, is that the drug trade doesn't even need that many people. It only requires a few, and then you of course need the manufacturers and of course the users. But it takes one big manufacturing operation and just a couple middlemen to get the shipping and coordination down, and then a lot of people are affected over a large area, even around the world. So, hey, congratulations to the DOJ for shutting down a dark web seller. Not very often it happens, and pretty darn cool. So, let's see. Let's go from that one. We have time to do maybe 2 more stories. Let's discuss this one. So, you know how we just talked about IRC? Well, IRC is used in particular by a very specific community, and that would be the Linux community. They love it. It's a very simple program to be able to talk to their friends on, and it works very, very nicely with minimal system settings. Well, looks like, speaking of Linux, there's another thing coming to the platform, and very applicable about Linux, where Valve and their Steam Play will use Vulkan to bring more Windows games to Linux. So Valve announced today a beta of Steam Play, which is a new compatibility layer for Linux to provide compatibility with a wide range of Windows-only games. And we've been tracking Valve's efforts to boost Linux gaming for a number of years, and as of a few months ago, things seem to have gone quiet, which I think a lot of people would agree. There was a time that Gaben was he was developing these things called the Steam boxes that were running off of a variant of Linux, and he made a big deal that anything that was playable on Windows would be playable on Linux. And trust me, the Linux community, they love that, because that means more things that they can do and means more games. They get to shake that idea that Linux is an underperforming system, and rather it can do anything anyone else can. Well, it took another leap forward in that regard, where last week it became clear that something was afoot for Linux gaming. The announcement today spells out in full that what the company has developed, where at its heart it's a customized, modified version of the Wine Windows on Linux compatibility layer named Proton. So Wine is let's see, not a Windows emulator or whatever it's called. Whatever. Wine is essentially you can run an instance of Windows within Linux to be able to run anything you want within Linux. It's kind of like that little barrier. So they said that the compatibility with Direct 3D graphics is provided by VKD 3D, and which is an implementation of Direct 3D 12 that uses Vulkan for high performance, and Vulkan implementation of Direct 3D 11. So to improve the broader gaming experience, Valve said that full screen graphics, multi-threading, gamepad support have all received attention, which is great. So once Steam Play is out of beta, developers of Windows games will be able to mark their games as being Steam Play compatible and will be offered for sale to Linux users. Valve has already tested and validated more than 24 traditional VR games, including Doom, which include the original in 2016, and 2017, which is the VR version, Nier Automata, and Quake. While support for other games is being worked on, Steam Play testers can toggle an override switch, which will allow you to download games on Steam systems even though they are not flagged. So, pretty cool. It means essentially Steam Play is another step forward that if you want to play something on Linux, you can go into Steam and you can download a game from Steam to be able to play on your Linux machine. It's a really good thing. It really is, because Linux, as much as we love you, as much as we dedicate a show every month to you, your game selection needs a lot of work when compared to Windows. So hopefully this closes that gap. All right. There you have that. Let's see. Let's go ahead and discuss. Man, there are a couple good ones, and we don't have time for one more. How about this one? Yeah. Christie. Christie's, they're an auction house, I believe, in New York. They sell a lot of different, very interesting items. Like if the Elephant Man's bones are going to go on sale again, it's going to be at Christie's. So, well, what does Christie's have this time that makes it relevant for us here on Computer America? And that would be an AI-generated art. I guess art. Painting. There we go. Not just an art, but also a painting. And they said that in October, Christie's Prints and Multiples art auction will include a portrait of a man named Edmund de Bellamy, one of 11 portraits of the Bellamy family, and the man is depicted in a dark coat with a white collar and his facial features indistinct. Blank areas around the work edges suggest that it is unfinished, and to many, the work may appear right at home at an auction house such as Christie's. But Edmund is not real. In fact, the entire Bellamy family is a work of fiction, and the portraits weren't painted by a human, but by artificial intelligence. And for anyone out there watching the video portion, you can of course see the picture there. It's looks like an unfinished painting. Not the best, but hey, not bad for a computer. So they said that when the piece goes up for auction, Christie's will become the first auction house to sell a work of art created by artificial intelligence. And they said that the Bellamy portraits were developed by a group called Obvious and were created by generative adversarial networks, which is a type of algorithm known as GANs. So the Obvious artist fed the system around 15,000 portraits created between the 14th and 20th century, and that the discriminator part of the algorithm was then tasked with differentiating between human-made and AI-made, saying that the aim is to fool the discriminator into, of course, thinking that the new images are real-life portraits, and then we have a result. So what they did was that, even before they painted, the AI would generate, after scanning 15,000 portraits, they would generate a completely different, unique portrait. And then it would use the same system would then use its discriminator, as they called it, but essentially say, is this real or is this fake? And every time it returned fake, they would go back and run it again so that it would try to spit out a new realistic looking portrait, and then it would come back and it would be fake over and over again, probably millions of times before you end up with this result of this painting, which is something that even itself could not tell the difference between, well, what is real and what is fake. So they're hoping to sell it for somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 euro, or about 8,000 to about $12,000. And yeah, I guess the future where we thought that artists were not going to be replaced by AI, that may be a work of fiction too. So everyone, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. Music means that we are just about done for today. And be sure to catch us here tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, as we talk to a company called Orcam. And this is a company that does, obviously, cameras, and let me see if we can get a better idea. So, this is going to be cameras for your glasses or your eyes or personal recorders. It's going to be pretty cool. So everyone, tune in. And until next time, have a great day. Again, thank you to our guest, Spaces, for coming on. If you miss any part, check out the podcast. And hey, be sure to tune in tomorrow. Everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.